CTV Beam viewers out there. We're doing a combo today. Again, just great to get back into the studio. So much going on, so many things happening out there. Among the coronavirus, and again, of course, with the recent assassination, if you will, of George Floyd, and of course, his memorial is going on right now as we're producing this show in Brooklyn. The memorial service there, man. I tell you, I didn't know that they had already basically lowered released the mandates so that they can pack people back in. But that church up there in Brooklyn, man, it was full.
It's seemed to be packed. I think really state by state they're making these regulations or loosening or reopening some situations where there more than 25 people can be gathered. So really ongoing process all over the world, and everything that we do, just trying to reopen some things, restart some things. But yeah, I'm surprised too.
Absolutely. Just again, a lot of things are going on. I know that some players, college and pro football players, are making statements that they're having to back up and pump the brakes, apologize. Namely, of course, Drew Brees is the man of the hour on the professional level, basically having some insensitive comments regarding the situation that's going on right now as everybody's. It's just a tough time. And then Jake Fromm has some words that I was surprised to hear from him, but we'll talk about that a little later in the show. Let's talk about, first of all, we got some wonderful guests. We have former NBA, NFL, and NCAA PR executive Arthur Trish, who's a good friend of ours and a longtime PR guy for the Atlanta Hawks. He's going to come on, and Arthur is very well versed in all sports, and of course, most recently, one of the producers of the 92.9 The Game, the top sports talk radio show in Atlanta. But we'll have him on, and again, I want to take people behind the ropes, if you will. Yeah. And again, as a PR director or as an executive on an NBA or an NFL organization, Arthur can give us some of those the answers that we want to ask, the tough questions. And now, especially since he is no longer with an organization, he can really get candid and talk about why they do what they do.
I mean, really, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait. I'm kind of anxious to talk to him because really, we're going to get the barbershop flavor, the behind the scene, behind the rope, as we say, DJ. We're going to be able to get a whole lot of stuff out of Arthur and really just be down to have a down-to-earth conversation.
We're going to have him coming up, though, in just a little bit. But in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to have another opportunity to talk to great former Auburn Tiger and, of course, a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers, Steve Wallace, good buddy of mine, frat brother of mine. And Steve played for Pat Dye, one of Pat Dye's favorite players. So we have an opportunity to talk about the late, great Pat Dye with Steve. And again, for those other folks out there that didn't know, Johnny Majors. We lost Johnny Majors this week as well, man. Right. And he was a coach at Tennessee when we were in college. And I tell you, man, it's just a terrible week with all the marching and rioting and with all of the things that these players are saying out of church with regards to the social injustices and everything. This is it's just an action-packed week. I hate to talk about it because obviously it's negative, but at the same time, what we say all the time is that sometimes if you don't know, if you're ignorant to the fact, just close your damn mouth.
Well, my mama told me a long time ago, if you don't have nothing to say good, just be quiet.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, man. College football is opening its doors back up. We understand that the players are getting ready to go back on campus on the 8th, which is in a few days. Yeah, Monday going back to work, man. Again, Dale, and I'm going to bring it up here because if you didn't hear us Monday, and Dale and I have been discussing this for weeks and months, is there going to be a college football season?
Yes, sir.
And again, when we say that, how can you, without a cure, without a vaccine for the coronavirus, how can you put 100 and 150 plus people, including players, managers, coaches, trainers, on one sideline in one locker room, the common areas of the bathroom, the showers, the players, the physicality, the sweating with football? How can you do that, much less bring back the kids on campus, which they're about to do in Alabama? Auburn has released that they're going to go open their doors back up real soon here. But those dormitories on campus, with those hundreds and hundreds of kids that usually common shower areas, common bathrooms, it blows my mind.
Well, DJ, in March, we talked about this, for the middle of March when all this stuff started to happen. We sided on the side of caution, and we wanted to make sure that we're doing everything healthful, being very sanitized. That's what we're basically doing. But now, DJ, it's turning to money. It's about wealth right now, and I think really for us getting those students back on campus, that's going to be the number one thing. And even the way and the guidelines of the SEC letting these schools back open up on Monday, they got to go through some guidelines themselves. Everybody's going to be tested Everybody's going to make sure they're going to make sure that all these guys are well. But it's a lot of requirements that they have to have, and each school has to go by.
God bless them, I tell you. But I can remember, one too long ago. Yes, it was. When we were in locker rooms, we knew what it was like. Obviously, a football locker room on a collegiate level, man. Basically, dozens and dozens of guys on top of each other. And again, now they have. I know the locker rooms are a lot nicer, a lot more exclusive, and they have a lot of space, and all have their own individual air conditioning units in their locker and helmet dryers and all that good stuff. But still, you know what? They're not individual showers. They're still, as far as I know, they got that's a common area. Individual, it's crazy, man. But I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that because again, if one player catches catches the virus, or two players, what do? You can't quarantine. You can't just remove that player because he has been in the locker room. Same way with the coaches.
Well, yeah, again, DJ, I think really whatever requirements needs to be made, I think really they have the resources, they have the money. If it takes having individual showers, they'll have them. For us cleaning up the facilities, they're going to clean them up. They're going to have an opportunity to hire some people to do these kind of things these days. But I think really it's just so valuable to college football from the student standpoint to even the fan situation. That's going to be the next move, DJ. But I see some college football. I say that in March. I think July is going to open up a whole lot of things. But I do think it's going to be some SEC football and some, the Power 5 conferences. They're going to play football.
Absolutely. Again, we got the NBA folks here. They agreed today.
Yeah.
It's official. They're going to go back to work. They're going to be in the bubble down at Disney World. How about that? Down in Disney World, down in Orlando, and they have they have enough hotels. They're spread out enough. They have enough facilities so the families can go into Disney World. And of course, you feel a lot better about that. I know if I was in the NBA and had the opportunity, whether we're going to go to Vegas or whether we're going to go to Orlando, the Vegas thing was one. It sounded good, but again, you think about families, and these players want to be with their families.
Yes.
And hey, why not? Just makes sense to go down to Disney World, where obviously it's the king for the kids.
And I think really Disney World actually opens up this weekend, so really they're going to be able to do some precautionary things to make sure everything is straight for these NBA guys. But DJ, and I guess I'm trying to hold this question until we get Arthur on the line. But I don't, from the NBA perspective, DJ, with everything that's going on, the George Floyd piece, and when you look at influence, I think the NBA players have a lot of influence, and they are definitely on par when it comes to social consciousness. And I think down the line, they're just going to say, we don't want to play.
Well, I think that it's beyond that point now, because obviously for them to go back and play the 8 regular season games, and then they're going to go into playoff mode with the rest of the season. It's come too far. They've been negotiating, and I think that LeBron has been very, very good at of course making statements on behalf of not just himself but the league for the most part. But I think that they're going to go ahead and push through with this, because obviously they're so close to making sure that they go ahead and complete the season. I don't think that they're going to let the George Floyd saga interrupt their play.
Well, I hope it doesn't. But DJ, we were talking about if we go back to March, we'll say okay, everything was good. But when this happened, I'm like, oh man, everybody, like he said today, DJ, he's thinking about a whole lot of other things other than basketball.
Well, it's going to happen. Basketball going to happen, and it's already the stamp of approval is already on the document. Hey, man, let's talk a little bit about this, because Georgia football, SEC, that's everything for us. Jake Fromm, a very well respected player who entered the draft, came out. Of course, the Buffalo Bills picked him. Some text came out, and apparently a young lady friend of his revealed some text some text messages where he was referring to elite white people being able to buy guns. The guns should be in a position where only elite white people can. They should price them so high that only elite white people can use guns. And I don't know what was on his mind. I don't know who he was talking to, but to think that that kind of stuff will come back on you, man. I tell you, it has to be a letdown for not only Kirby Smart, but everybody that was, I guess, associated with Jake, from the standpoint of his teammates and whatnot. Because again, I know you can apologize, and he did apologize, but it came out, and it shouldn't have been. He said it. He texted.
He texted right there. It goes back to social media 101. And I remember talking to my daughter when she was in elementary school with that cell phone. Before you release what you're getting ready to text or email someone, you make sure you want to say that. And I think really and did that we just kind of led to it behind the scenes. If you don't have nothing good to say, just don't say nothing. And definitely you don't want to text it or put it out in cyberspace. About it, because again, it's out there. When you release it, it's gone.
He made his bed, and I know there's understandings that the Buffalo Bills might be considering letting him go. Now, again, it's as sensitive as the subject right now, especially the racial part of it. Having a new kid, a quarterback in particularly, that you just drafted, and coming into the fold. So keep your eyes on Jake Fromm, and I know that Jake has made again public apologies, and he's recanted all of the statements and made it sound like he didn't consider himself an elite white person. But the proof is in the pudding. Now the word is out. Now again, he's in backpedal mode.
Yes, he is, and again, everybody want to apologize today. Switching gears to even the Drew Brees piece, but this thing I do know. When you're on a team, you have one thing in common. You're going to work hard, you want to win. And I think what Drew Brees said, ignorantly, he said these things, and then I don't think he expected the clap back, DJ. And I think you don't want to make you don't want to go in your locker room and you don't want to piss off your teammates.
For those people who don't know what Drew said, again, it's been all over everywhere, but just paraphrasing, he made reference to that he didn't respect anybody that didn't respect the flag or the national anthem, and he didn't, it just went south in a hurry. And he recanted his statement, made an apology this morning. Yes, the statement was released yesterday, but everybody and their grandmother was all over Drew Brees. And here's a guy who gave $5 million to the state of Louisiana to help feed the families during this pandemic. Of course, we know he was Mr. Everything when the hurricanes back several years back. Katrina came through, and but again, they said the people that were rioting or that were protesting in the streets last night were saying, instead, you think, well, he was God. They were saying, bump Drew Brees, and bump started with an F. Yeah. So they were chanting that. So it can show you how quickly and how sensitive this situation is, and he's in backpedal mode right now too, because even some of his teammates, Michael Thomas, who was his record-breaking wide receiver, among the most of them. But it was just a crazy situation, and hopefully he can get this thing reel back in and get on with a good football season.
I think he's done the best thing that he possibly have done. Could have done really for us, recanting it, apologizing. I think that was the right thing to do, but at the same time, for us, what he's done in the community, a lot of people, we're very forgiving people, but at the same time, DJ, I think what he said, he wasn't thinking. And again, it goes right to the Colin Kaepernick piece. That's not why he's kneeling. And I think really Colin Kaepernick looks real good right about now, because these are the things that he was protesting that are going on right now. The police brutality pieces, not disrespecting the flag. But how can we stand in front of the flag, DJ, when this kind of stuff been going on for 400 years now?
You're absolutely right, man. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have, of course, Arthur Trish, the PR executive from the National Basketball Association, the NFL, and NCAA. We're going to go behind the curtains and find out and talk and pick his brain. You're listening to WRCG 92.1, and you're watching CTV Beam TV. This is the Sports Visions Radio Show.
Bus is coming in 10 minutes. Come eat breakfast. Hey, watch the homework.
Do you know if it's supposed to rain?
Where's my gray hat? Where did you leave it?
It's your body.
What time does practice end today?
I like that headband. It really makes a statement.
Are you gonna wear this to work? Let's go. Bus is here.
Liberty Utilities natural gas. So reliable, you'll forget we're there.
Imagine a life-changing injury. Imagine the fear and unknown. The Houston Clinic Sports Medicine Team, the only physicians in the area with advanced certification in orthopedic sports medicine, treats sports injuries with innovative techniques. The Houston Clinic has helped nearly 1 million athletes live without pain. Imagine getting back in the game. Imagine the best game of your life. The Houston Clinic Sports Medicine Team.
We think you would really shine in the Aflac program.
Aflac? Coach Saban, we have health insurance.
Did health insurance pay for everything?
No.
We still have bills.
Aflac gives you money directly to help with those.
Aflac?
And your deductibles, knee brace, whatever you choose.
Aflac sounds like a winner.
We try.
Get help with expenses health insurance doesn't cover. Get to know us at aflac.com.
Yes, indeed. Back with you. And of course, as we promised before, we have with us right now one of our good friends in the sports world and in the media world. Of course, this guy has had some tremendous opportunities. Dale, we talk about all the time how we are just living a dream and being blessed to have the opportunity to have a radio, TV, and magazine platform. But this young man has worked for some of the biggest and best in the industry. His name is Arthur Trish. Welcome to the Sports Vision Radio Show, Art.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, Art?
Real good, man. There's a lot going on, man, and I just want to start right off the bat. First and foremost, I want you to, we talk about these great opportunities that you've had. Talk about this great career and some of the stops you've made along the way.
Well, hopefully I don't bore your audience. I've been in the business for about 35 plus years in various avenues. Started out in sports administration, working for my alma mater, Tulane University, as an assistant SID. Spent 3 years after graduating from the school to join their athletic program, and then made what I consider to be the best move professionally I've ever done in my career, and that was to go up to the arch rival LSU in a similar capacity, where I spent an additional 3 years. And the reason I say that is because it opened the door for me to make a lot of contacts that I wasn't able to make at Tulane, and I always loved my alma mater, but being at LSU was the best move for me professionally for my career at that point and to this day. And after spending 3 seasons with the Tigers, I spent a year in the NFL with the Detroit Lions as an assistant PR director, and from that position I joined the Atlanta Hawks and became their director of PR back in 1989, and I was there with them for 23 years until about 2012. And from that point in time, I joined a local sports radio station here in Atlanta, producing their sports talk shows, 92.9 The Game, spent 7 years with them. And currently I'm looking for that next opportunity, hopefully back with a professional team.
One of the real good guys in our business, and I say good guys with the exclamation point, because again, being a minority-owned entity, if you will, the guys that we're the grunt guys. We go out and get it done. It doesn't matter. We have from the Super Bowl to the Masters. Dale and I, Sports Visions, we've been on the scene for the last 16 years. But Arthur, we really appreciated you, and especially with your time during the Atlanta Hawks, with you as the PR guy there. You were extremely gracious. You almost bent over backwards to kind of make sure that we were taken care of. But we appreciated that, and I just wanted to tell you that publicly.
Oh, you said that before, my man, and I appreciate it. It was the least I could do. I enjoyed the interaction I had with many media people in this area, and to this day, it's lasting friendships. And that, out of more than anything else, that's the most important thing in the world to me, because it never got adversarial. I welcomed anyone to come and publicize Hawks basketball. Enjoyed meeting a lot of people from a lot of different areas, local, nationally, as well as internationally. And like I said, they're friends. A lot of people are friends to this day, and hopefully I can return to that line of work and resume establishing even more relationships.
Well, Arthur, before
I won't necessarily tell your audience you two were a pain in the butt.
But before we get into the heavy lifting and all the NBA questions, as a PR director, obviously what's going on here right now is one of the worst nightmares, I'm sure, between Drew Brees and for the with the Saints, and of course Jake Fromm, his statements. I don't know whether you were from the Georgia angle or from the Buffalo Bills angle, but as a PR director, I mean, whose responsibility is it for us to start putting out the fires when it pertains to a team and, of course, starting to get pressers out?
Well, let's just say the last 24 hours, I just tweeted something at about 30 minutes ago when I realized Jake Fromm is the latest to kind of step in it. He hasn't really established that good of a relationship with his people in Buffalo yet. And so while I'm sure he's probably gotten a call or two from Bill's PR, I wouldn't be surprised if he's heard from the Georgia SID office up with the great Claude Felton and his crew there, asking him to at least try to amend what he said. the Drew Brees scenario from yesterday, that is a firestorm unlike anything I've seen in recent memory. And it's tough for me because, as you guys know, I'm from New Orleans, grew up there, spent 28 years of my life down in that area, and I've now been in the Atlanta area longer than I grew up in New Orleans, but the Saints have remained my favorite team. And this is a guy who not only is a successful ball player, he's a great guy civically in that area and did a lot post-Katrina and helping to lead that team to the Super Bowl. So his comments yesterday stung big time. And it took me all day to finally elect to say something. I wanted to say something all day, but I wanted to say the right thing and not be so reactionary without getting my message across. But in reference to your question, that's where a PR department would then reach out to Drew to let him know, look, you have to address this because you created this. It wasn't like they may not have even known he was going on TV to do that interview with the Yahoo Finance. And the reason I say that is because not every interview is cleared by the team's PR department because the players have their own business ventures, their own outside PR firms that they deal with the respective businesses that they promote. And this might have been done without Saints' approval, not that they necessarily had I should say without Saints' knowledge. And given the current climate with the coronavirus and teams having little, not as much contact with their players as they would on a daily basis with training mini camps and training camps, OTAs and what have you, all of that's out the window. So it's a kind of new ball game for everybody right now, and you just try to hope that your players are abiding by the smart tenets of social media, and that's as Herm Edwards would always say, don't press send. But in this case, this was a TV actual interview or a video for Yahoo's website, and I'm sure, given it wasn't necessary for the PR department to reach out to Drew, he heard enough from his teammates yesterday based on what he said.
True.
I'm sure everybody's heard or seen the tweets from Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, to name a couple, and the video from Malcolm Jenkins stung hard because this is Malcolm Jenkins the second time around in going back playing for the Saints, and he considered Drew a brother, as he said, in the locker room, and a guy he trusts, and thought he had a better relationship with him than he actually than what was portrayed yesterday. And I'm sure once they discussed this today, I don't know if you guys know, they had a pre-scheduled Zoom video conference that was on the docket before these comments came up. I'm sure those comments were on fire today, going back to Drew, given what he said and given how his teammates felt. And that conversation needed to be had. And once everyone got everything off their chest, I'm sure Sean Payton was like, this is where we leave it. And you guys have played the game long enough. Your coach will certainly become even more of a leader during a time like this. But I'm sure this is a teachable moment for Drew Brees as well as others. And you hope that no one else takes a bite out of that apple and makes that mistake again. But someone will. It's inevitable that it's going to happen again because you've got to be smart about the situation. You've got to know the climate of what's going on. We weren't dealing with I understand his feelings about the flag. No one was dealing with the flag over the past week and a half or so with the murder of George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery. That's not what people were talking about. That's not why people were protesting. It had nothing to do with your loyalties to the flag. It was about police brutality and the death of those three black people who didn't deserve that fate. And he misread the room, and he sounded very tone deaf yesterday, unfortunately.
Well, let's switch gears to the other virus that's going on with the George Floyd piece. I think really for the NBA, they were voting on restarting the season today, and they chose to do that. Do you really think, and it's just us talking, that the NBA, I think the NBA players are the most influential athletes that are out there. And I think, do you think really they would boycott the season, even in the midst of saying that we were going to restart the season because of the George Floyd situation?
I don't think so. I don't think it got to that extent. Because NBA players, if anything, they're the most socially active players of any of the sports leagues. You guys know that. LeBron is very active on his avenues of communication on social media, and he took Drew Brees to task yesterday as well. He even took in some shots today at Laura Ingraham, the Fox announcer who told him on a broadcast way back when to shut up and dribble. He wasn't having it over the last 24 hours, given what she then said last night about Drew Brees, and acted like Drew Brees should be allowed to say what he needs to say, and they gave him every escape plan admissible. But I think I don't think the players ever. I think there are some players. To answer your question, I think there are some players who are apprehensive about playing because you would have to be. That's only human given this virus and the unknown that's attached to it. But I think there are some players who are willing to get back to work and who are willing to take the risk. Some who, like LeBron James, who feel that this is a great opportunity for him to get another championship. And with this reduced 22-team tournament that they have scheduled to start July 31st, we'll see where the chips fall, because just because LeBron thinks he may have the best chance of winning the title, I'm sure the Clippers, the Bucks, Toronto, teams like that are still feeling like we have just as just as much of a chance to win a title as they do.
If you're just joining us, we have on a good friend, longtime PR executive with the NBA, NFL, NCAAs. His name is Arthur Trish, and Arthur has a lot of valuable information, and I'm just appreciative that you're able to come on and drop some nuggets here to the Sports Visions Nation. But with that said, we've been kicking around, the last week or so about whether NCAA college football Division I programs are going to start back up, and we're hearing each and every day that they're going to play. They don't know if they're going to be able to allow people in the stands. They don't know if they want to let the kids go back to school. Some people are saying they're going to let the kids come back to school. But Art, with no vaccine and no cure for coronavirus, what's your real thoughts? Because I'm the biggest optimistic football fan there is, and I love it. But it's nowhere in the world I could see coming back basically 150 plus players, trainers, managers, and coaches on each sideline, and then just even if no one was in the stand, just the fact that those players using common areas in the shower, in the bathroom, and living in a dorm, and give me your thoughts on that.
Well, you guys know better than most because you played the sport of football. Football is the most contact sport out there. They're bumping and grinding and sweating and spitting and rubbing up against each other. 60 minutes a game, 3 hours of practices, and to not have if I'm a parent, I'm definitely concerned about my child going back to a university to play because we don't even have a vaccine yet. There's so much unknown with this disease, and we're worried about people getting together and protesting, and that the social distancing going out of the window with the protests that we've seen over all 50 states, that a football field with the amount of time that there's no 6 feet social distancing in football. It just isn't. and as you said, the interaction in the locker room, the job of the trainers, student managers, the doctors, that's going to be at a high premium moving forward. And football is definitely a sport I would be concerned with. And unlike the NFL players, the college players don't really have the so-called union that the NFL and other professional sports has. They basically have to do whatever these coaches tell them unless their heart tells them differently. And it's going to be interesting to see how many of these kids actually go back if the housing situation isn't set up properly, and if these coaches are demanding that they fulfill their scholarship obligations. The coaches are making all the money. The players aren't getting a dime for playing. Yeah, they've got the scholarship. We don't have to go down that road. But these college kids are certainly risking a heck of a lot more, in my opinion, than the professional athletes are, because the professional athletes have the courtesy of being able to make that decision knowing they may have some money left in the bank if they don't want to play for their respective team moving forward. College kids don't have that luxury, and that the weight of that scholarship being thrust at them constantly by these coaches when we're not in a situation like this can certainly force them to do something they don't want to do.
You know, Arthur, I was minding my own business, taking me a nice nap, and I woke up and I was reading this book called How to Succeed in Business Without Being White by the late, great Earl Graves, the publisher and CEO of Black Enterprise Magazine.
Black Enterprise, yeah.
And he was talking about the importance of network, and he talks about, you are an example in the book. Talk to our listeners out there about if you are a communications major in college or an integrated media major in college, the importance of networking.
It's essential and to get ahead in business, and you must develop the skills to be able to hold a conversation. You must develop the skills to be able to succeed writing and formulating opinions. It doesn't necessarily mean your opinion is negative to anyone else, but you must have the ability to, when it's an opportunity for you to meet and greet people, to be able to do that well and to succeed at establishing relationships, like I said earlier in my conversation, that you can have for a lifetime, because we're all looking to be the best and brightest we can possibly be, and the opportunities are endless if you land a job that can lead to a rewarding career. And it may not be, you may not end up with the job you initially want at the start of your career, but you do a good job there. You can progress to several different locations, as in my case, several different cities, several different teams, and the ability to create your own niche. And if you don't have a willingness to network, you're going to pigeonhole yourself in a situation that you could end up being for the rest of your life or on a short-term basis. So you should take advantage of every opportunity you have. You get to meet and greet people, to send emails out and contact people in your field of industry, and hopefully you get an answer back from them. It's much easier for people to communicate with others than it was for us when we were in school, because now a lot of people have social media. And whether it's via Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you also have LinkedIn and other social media outlets to reach out to people and get to know their backgrounds and how they were able to succeed in business. And you should take full advantage of every bit of it.
Arthur Trish is his name, and he's an expert in public relations. Of course, I'm working in the NBA, the National Football League, as well as Tulane and LSU. But I want to go there. Let's go to the next level with regards to blacks in sports. Of course, Dale and I obviously being a black-owned multimedia platform of radio, television, and magazine platform. You being a minority in the NBA, as much less an executive but a PR guy. Dale and I go to a lot of different places, and again, we've been in this game 16 years, and you pretty much knew us from the beginning, and we get pushback, we get looks, but you know what? We were groomed and we were raised to do our job. Don't worry about hanging out and trying to be with people who didn't appreciate you, who don't respect you. But we get in and out and we do our jobs. As a black PR director in the National Basketball Association, did you have any? I'm sure you did, and I want you to go there and talk about. And you were talking in general terms with regards to this billion-dollar industry, multimedia, broadcasting, NBA franchises, as a black man working in an essential position.
Well, believe it or not, I don't know if you guys know this, but and you may. I was the first black PR director in NBA history.
Okay. Wow.
I would not have believed that when I was hired for the job, because I was in the NFL, and we had several PR directors of color, some women, and I was one of several assistant black PR directors in the league. And so just because the NBA being at the time was about 90% black, I just assumed that there were more before me. Silly me. When I was told by our beat writer at the time, Jeffrey Denberg of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, that I would be the first, I looked at him with the craziest look in the world. I was like, are you serious? He said, yeah. I said, me at 28 years old, I'm the first one? and I was floored, and I didn't put a whole lot of stock in that early on. Although it goes without saying, and you guys could relate, being in press boxes or what have you. You know,
yes,
when you're the only one in the room.
That's right.
And a lot of those SEC press boxes from my days at LSU and my early years at Tulane, there were a lot of times when I was the only one of me looking around doing a job that not even newspaper guys with people of color were around. And I didn't let that bother me because I knew I wanted the job. I wanted to do a very good job at it. And if I was hired because of my color, I was going to damn sure make sure that I did a good job to impress them and make them regret the fact that they were hiring a person of color. And what I mean by that is, if that was the only reason you were hiring me for that job, then I was going to make sure you regretted that decision every day of your life, because it wasn't going to be a token. I was determined to do the job I knew I was capable of doing, and I think I succeeded at it, given the fact I spent 30 years of my life at it. But there were many days when I would look around and wonder, some of these schools have all these black ball players on the field of play or on the basketball court, but yet I look around the athletic department, there's not a lot of us as employees or amongst the media. There's not a lot of us in these SEC locations. And when I got to the professional ranks, it was certainly better, because you were working with a lot of professional newspapers in major cities, a lot of urban areas. So a lot of those teams had beat writers and TV hosts of color. And certainly when I got to the NBA, it was just an explosion of a melting pot of different faces and races. And I didn't have nearly as much trouble in the NBA as I did back in and not to say that I had a lot of trouble, but you would get those looks, and you knew what those looks meant. And you would deal with those people, or you would learn more about those people over time. And if they were real, they became friends, and if they weren't, you knew how to deal with them as well. But I always made sure that whenever I was hiring, whether it was for my assistants in my department or interns in my department, that I tried to make sure that I looked at every person's resume and gave each and every one of them the benefit of the doubt. I wasn't trying to fill quotas, but I certainly wanted to make sure that I opened the doors for many people who were disenfranchised and maybe wouldn't have gotten that opportunity elsewhere. And so that meant looking at making sure my department reflected a little bit of me, or a woman here and there, that I made sure that it was open and fair to each and every person. And I'm proud to say, of all the people that I hired, a lot of them went on to work for other teams, went on to work in the fields of broadcasting. One of my women assistants with the Hawks is Kobe Bryant's, rest in peace, his chief financial officer. And she came a long way. And Molly Carter was recognized when he won his Oscar for the basketball short that he did along with others. And I was so proud of her when her name was mentioned, because I had forgotten she was working with Kobe. And it certainly was difficult to hear the news when his plane went down earlier this year. And if I can say this while we're on the air, can we hurry up and get through 2020?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like with everything else that's going on now, you haven't forgotten that Kobe Bryant passed away and how he passed away, but it's like it's become a distant memory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because there's been so much other calamity going on that none of us could have envisioned, and it's a shame. We've lost a lot of former NBA guys along the way, as recently as a week earlier this week with the death of Wes Unseld, the former Washington Bullet great.
Yes.
And I lost several former beat writers of NBA teams that I consider great friends over the past month. It's been this year. I can't wait for it to be over and done with. But more importantly, people get registered to vote, because November 3rd or November 2nd, whenever that date is on that Tuesday, that's the most important day of your life if you want to reverse some of the nonsense that's going on in this country today.
Hey, Arthur, I got to stay right there. I know me and DJ, we talk all the time when we come out of
a press box. We go to the SEC game, NFL games, the Falcon games, and really it jumps out at us all the time that it's only, 1% in here is minority and black, and most of the players on the field are black. What other things that I appreciate everything that you're doing for as the networking is concerned, but really, does the NBA, I know they notice it, but do they really want to do something about it?
Well, each of these leagues have to do better. The NBA, while it's viewed as the most progressive of the sports leagues by Richard Lapchick out of Orlando, Florida, the numbers have decreased since I've been away from it. Well, it was decreasing when I was coming up on my last few years in the league, and I didn't want to lose my job, and I was disappointed when it happened, and that's a whole other story. But it certainly wasn't because of work performance, but I unfortunately lost my gig, and thankfully a person of color replaced me. But the NBA, in my opinion, and because we see, one thing we see on a steady basis is the number of coaches that are on the benches and media who are covering these teams nowadays. It may be better in Atlanta in the sense of a lot of the brothers and sisters who are doing their best to cover the Hawks. But some of these other teams, if it's not the same guys who were covering teams when I was around, and that's not to say they need to be jettisoned for a person of color to replace them, but a lot of these teams have gotten away from being as progressive as they once were, in my opinion. Some teams have anywhere from 8 to 12 coaches, it appears at times, on the front of the bench and behind the bench, and you may spot one person of color on the front of the bench and one behind the bench, where there used to be multiple coaches of color mixed in with someone who didn't look like them. And the NBA certainly isn't the worst league out there. I would probably say, in terms of minority hiring, baseball isn't something to be proud of. And the NFL has certainly had its issues of late, for sure, especially as it relates to the Rooney Rule. I mean, it got to the point where the rule they were trying to implement about bringing in or moving the teams up in the draft if they interviewed black candidates, I thought that was the worst thing in the world that could happen. That was patronizing.
Yes.
That was patronizing. And I'm glad that measure was tabled, and hopefully it never returns, because but these owners have to do better. I mean, it's not about us just performing on the court or on the field, on the baseball diamond. We have talents to succeed in the front office, and that's been proven for years now. I mean, when I was with the Hawks, we went through one stage where every one of our vice presidents were people of color. And we were the only team in the league like that. Now, Stan Kasten had no problem with hiring the best and brightest within the organization. He and Lee Douglas, you guys know Lee very well, who was the executive VP. But we had a vice president in PR, which was me. We had a vice president in marketing, who was Dexter Santos. We had a vice president of business operations, who was Dwayne Redmond. Our VP of ticket sales was a woman of color. Cheryl Dukes was her name. And our VP of community affairs was Mel Pender. And we were proud of that. And we represented the organization well. And I was the last man standing out of that bunch. Some went on to work for other NBA teams or private business. And so I was proud I was around for the length of period I was. But I love working in sports, always did. My initial desire when I went to college was to get into sports broadcasting. And so I couldn't really get into it as much as I wanted to, because I was a student basketball manager at Tulane while I was there. And any internships I would have to do at a TV station would be non-paying and would be in the afternoon, exactly during the time of basketball practice. I had a scholarship to be a student basketball manager at Tulane. It was an easy choice to consider continue doing that than to go on to do something for free, not knowing how it would pan out for the rest of my career. I don't have any regrets. I got a chance to work at 92.9 The Game and spend a little over 7 years with them, learning and understanding broadcasting from a radio standpoint. I wouldn't object to doing that again if the opportunity presented itself. But I know what I'm good at and what I enjoy the most out of anything I've done in my career, and that's working with a professional sports team, and I would love to do it again.
Arthur Trish is his name. Public relations and producing is his game. Arthur, we got a couple of minutes here. I want to give you a chance to get on your soapbox. I know you were LSU Tiger and you were doing your thing. They had one of the most phenomenal seasons in the history of the college game. Talk about that experience, because I know I followed you. I saw you at a few games and followed you on social media. We got about 4 minutes, and again, take a couple of minutes to talk about that experience.
Well, I'll give you a whole lot of credit, given the fact your Georgia connections and bringing that up, considering how we handled you guys in the SEC championship game. But it was certainly a season like none other. And while I've been away from the program for a bunch of years now, it is still near and dear to my heart, and I still have some former coworkers who still, as a matter of fact, former football players who was on the team when I was in the athletic department, who are now big-time executives in the front office. So it was great for the state. It was great for the city of Baton Rouge, because we saw how the Saints kind of dropped the ball yet again in the playoffs. And it would have been nice had they been able to move on the NFL side. But I'll take a championship on the college level any day. And if the college players are unable to resume their season this year, we'll take a 2-year run as national champions.
All right.
We'll enjoy that. But it was a phenomenal year, as I said. Joe Burrow had numerous weapons. We all saw the wideouts he had at receiver, and the running backs he had at his disposal. Everything came together to bring Ed Ogeron the school's first championship since 2007. And it was they deserved it. They beat the biggest and the best over the course of the season. It wasn't a fluke, and hopefully they're able to defend their title this year. It's going to be a little tougher with the Heisman Trophy winner now in Cincinnati, but you guys know the Tigers. They'll be ready to represent each and every Saturday, whether it's in Baton Rouge or on the road.
All right. We appreciate you, man. You've been very, very gracious with your time. And look,
anytime, fellas.
We appreciate you. Hey, you take care, man. We'll be in touch.
You the man.
You do the same.
Take
care, fellas.
Right.
Arthur Trish, the first black public relations director in the National Basketball Association history, man.
Right.
You know what? As long as we've been knowing him, we didn't know that.
We didn't know that.
We didn't know that at all. We didn't know that at all. Hey, quickly before we go to this next break, next week, 1 week from today, we will have our 5th annual Sports Vision's Female Athlete of the Year Awards Luncheon. We'll honor over 50 of the top high school female athletes in East Alabama and West Central Georgia. And it'll be on, it's not the luncheon, it's the actual TV show.
That's right.
The luncheon was canceled, of course, the coronavirus and pandemic. April 16th was the original date. We decided just to produce a television awards show.
That's
and
right.
We're going to have that on for you on CTV Beam. You'll be able to watch it next Thursday at 8 o'clock. And we're going to have all the bells and whistles of our actual luncheon.
We're going to paint the picture, DJ, and we're just going to do the TV show. And I think really, everybody said, well, why do a TV show? Why not? I mean, we got the platform, we got the sponsors, and we definitely got the most talented young ladies in the Southeast that are going to be there, and we're going to honor. And I think that's really the biggest thing about we're still able to do it even in the midst of the coronavirus. And,
of course, the format will be very similar to our luncheons, but we're going to have our lovely Loretta Rose. She'll be a part of it as one of the hosts. And, of course, we'll have our guest speaker, the head coach, the women's basketball coach of Tuskegee University, Ms. Trelane Moore Powell. I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take a break, let you know that you're listening to WRCG 92.1 and you're watching CTV Beam. This is the Sports Visions Radio Show.
E&S Men's Clothing Warehouse has been your most trusted name in men's fashion for more than 50 years. We've offered the area's best selection of top quality, name brand suits, accessories, and casual wear at the most competitive prices around. Customer service is our top priority. We're the professionals generations have trusted for the best quality and absolutely the best deals. We are E&S Men's Clothing Warehouse. We are simply the best.
Come into Chester's Barbecue for our world-famous mouth-watering ribs, smoked fresh on our grill daily. Or try one of our barbecue pork plates with fresh sides. Chester's has delicious sandwich combos to choose from that are sure to please. We also serve tempting home-cooked favorites. And don't forget to take home your own bottle of great sauce. Chester's Barbecue, serving the best food at the best price. 3 locations to serve you.
Hey, my name is George, and I love the Chick-fil-A grilled nuggets. It's like me grilling at home. It tastes very similar to that, except the seasoning. I probably can't season it as well as Chick-fil-A does. The chicken's super tender, and honestly, the best nuggets I've ever tasted.
My name is Meredith, and a little thing I love about Chick-fil-A's mac and cheese is the oven-toasted, cheesy top layer. If home had a flavor, it would be Chick-fil-A's mac and cheese. I'm passionate about it.
People know Aflac, but not what they do. So we're answering their questions.
Aflac is auto insurance, right?
No.
Is it homeowner's insurance?
No.
Is it duck insurance?
Nope.
Do they pay me money directly when I get sick or injured?
Yeah! Aflac! You got it! You know Aflac.
Boom.
Get help with expenses health insurance doesn't cover. Get to know us at Aflac.com.